The navigation, regulation, correlation method developed from several of my earlier thesis statements in my Implicit Revelations case study. And it explores the relationship between the navigational patterns of the body-mind and the regulatory protocols of brain-body systems. Navigational patterns have much more to do with unconscious memories, carrying patterns of feeling and movement that affect all styles of inner realities and translations of realities, including thoughts, perceptions, stories, dialogue, inner narrative, emotions, feelings, sensations, responses, habits, action patterns, approach avoidance tendencies, etc. Regulatory protocols have more to do with all the different brain-body systems, including brain waves, brain hemispheric balance and integrative connectivity through the corpus callosum, cranial nerve functionality, sensory processing, the ability to feel something on the skin and interpret it into a sensation of personal experience, the ability to taste something and make sense of it. There's the regulation that allows for taste buds to send signals. And then aspects of navigation help interpret it. Oh, I know what this tastes like because I've tasted it before and that's stored in my memories unconsciously. I know what I prefer to taste because that's stored in the navigational patterns of my unconscious memories. Okay, so there's this constant interrelationship between navigation and regulation. Okay, and so regulatory protocols, brainwaves, brain hemisphere balance, cranial nerves, sensory processing, the different nervous systems, the autonomic nervous system, the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system that includes the sensory processing and stuff in the limbs and how it all connects and everything, and digestion, respiration, your heart rate variability is a type of regulatory protocol. Heart rate variability is a type of regulatory protocol. And digestion, that processing, that ability to digest food and the rate at which it digests and how effectively it digests, this all has to do with regulatory protocols. And they are partly related with the actual physical health of the body, but then there's also how the energy flows through those bodily systems. So there's the capacity for regulation, the actual body, but then there are the regulatory protocols that are like, hey, here's the standard template for how we flow energy through those systems. And so digestion, respiration, hormones and neurotransmitters are a big one. And this has to do with emotional balance and stability and emotional responses, the ability to have this emotional intelligence, actually, even not just feeling emotions, but the ability to process emotions, the ability to feel deeply but not get stuck in low vibrational emotions. And so to not have emotional blockages, but to not be stuck in emotions you don't want on a continuous basis, okay? And so there's the ability to think clearly and have clarity and presence and the ability to focus, all of these things, the ability to have a rhythm in the body and a cycle in the body and be able to flow with the rhythm of life. There's so many different things that are affected by all these regulatory protocols, including hormones and neurotransmitters and the circadian rhythm. So there's all these regulatory protocols. Okay, and then there's all these navigational patterns. And the navigational patterns, again, are things that affect the interpretation of reality and projections through inner realities like thoughts, feelings, and action patterns. And those primarily stem from unconscious memories carrying patterns of feeling and movement. And then there's the regulatory protocols that are like, okay, there's all these things going on in the brain and the body. Here's a template and a standard protocol of how energy now flows in those systems. So there's these two aspects going on in the body-mind. The body-mind has two jobs, navigation and regulation. And so the navigation, regulation, correlation method is something I've developed through my Implicit Revelations case study, and it really explores the interconnectedness between these two jobs of the body-mind. How do they affect each other? Because they're both happening all the time, and they're both occurring through the body-mind, the mind of the body beyond awareness. And the body-mind is extremely, profoundly complex. And it has been affected by every moment of experience, storing information that the conscious mind could never fully fathom. Could never fully fathom. The body-mind stores information that the conscious mind could never fully fathom. And so when we explore the navigation and regulation and how they're affecting each other, there are so many miracles happening. And just like with all of my quantum catalyzers, we're here to accomplish two purposes. The first is to explore, understand, and unveil hidden inner workings of the body-mind while connecting deeper with parts of consciousness who exist and operate independently of all these brain-body structures where identity is distinguished from personal experience. And then the second purpose is to evolve and resculpt and rewrite and shapeshift and transform and evolve the structures of the body-mind to activate and liberate and expand consciousness so that the body-mind has an upgraded capacity to support the divinity of the true self and to allow for the essence of self to flow through the body-mind uninhibited, so that consciousness can create through the body-mind rather than the body-mind automatically projecting reality for consciousness. There's like this role reversal, okay? So all of my quantum catalyzers have those two purposes, and every one accomplishes one or both of them effectively and enjoyably, and that is the staple of my work, both with the concepts I create and some of which I share freely, and with the self-guided journeys I create through content creations, videos, playbooks, guidebooks, programs, practices, and also the one-on-one services that I share through one-time sacred soul sessions or multi-month personalized pathways. And right now I have 3 multi-month personalized pathways, which I am accepting clients for. So you can find out more about that in the video description below. One is to resolve an implicit health challenge. One is to evolve how consciousness flows through the body-mind while being reborn as infinite love. And the third multi-month personalized pathway is through ongoing marathons to unveil and transform body-mind wirings while unveiling and reunifying with self aspects. You can find out more about all my offerings in the video description below. Let's get back to our topic, navigation, regulation, correlation method, what it is, how to explore it, and how these insights can actually be utilized in everyday life to evolve and expand personal experience from the inside out. What is the relationship between navigation and regulation? Navigation affects regulation, and regulation affects navigation. When there is positive, uplifting styles of navigation, there's unconscious memories that are fully integrated. Every emotion that's ever been experienced is fully processed. Every experience that's ever happened has been fully processed and complete. Everything is completely integrated through trillions of networks. All of the unconscious memories stored beyond awareness are carrying patterns of feeling and moving that directly correlate with experiences of unconditional love and attachment well-being. And the only styles of navigation are joy and love and peace and freedom. When there is any form of positive navigation, whether it be like that all the time or just sometimes, then that is going to positively affect regulation. If you have thoughts and feelings and perspectives and emotions and habits and action patterns that correlate with the well-being of attachment needs, the need to feel seen and loved and celebrated and treasured and supported and connected and respected and embraced, safe and secure in the moment. If there are these positive, uplifting, healthy styles of body-mind navigation, then it is going to positively affect regulation. And all the brain body systems will start to flow in greater harmony. The hormones and neurotransmitters will support this emotional well-being and a great circadian rhythm of good health of the cycles in your everyday experiences, and brain waves will be nice and regulated where there's not too much going on but also not too little going on, just like a perfect balance where you're able to use your brain in this perfect rhythm of its waves, and right and left brain hemispheres will have a greater chance to connect and communicate, and digestion will go better, and the respiration will be better, your heart rate variability will be improved, no tachycardia or bradycardia or any craziness going on there, and there's going to be greater health of cranial nerves, and you might actually find that you're able to express facial features or all the different other functions of the cranial nerves. Facial expressions is one of the things affected by them, in a better way, in a healthier way, in an expanded way. And so there's a direct connection there. And so you can actually improve the regulation by improving navigation. And of course, obviously, improving navigation will improve that. So that's obviously really good. But then it also improves the regulation even without directly working with the regulatory protocols. And vice versa. If you don't look at the navigation at all, you're just like, whatever, there's, not even looking at what's going on, but you look directly at the regulation, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this breathing practice that has nothing to do with my perspective on this moment or an emotion that I'm feeling or a habit that I have and a chronic decision making. Like, it has nothing to do with navigation, but I'm going to do this breathing practice. And I'm focusing on the regulatory protocols that are helping energy move through my body. Then that is going to have a positive effect on the navigation, which is why if you do something like a breathing practice, maybe on its own or maybe correlated with yoga or something, then it can help kind of slow down your thinking and calm your thoughts and regulate your emotions and allow you more space to make conscious choices rather than just having all these automated unconscious habits. So there's a direct connection between navigation and regulation in the body mind. So those are examples of positive experiences. But what happens when there's not so positive experiences? If there are disintegrated navigational patterns, where maybe there was an experience that never got fully processed. And this ranges along a spectrum of intensity, severity, and duration and frequency in terms of the original event and how it affects navigation now. So, there's an example of you're 5 years old and you get lost in a store for 5 minutes. And it was a really serious deal at the time. But then it faded and everything else was fine and it doesn't majorly affect you now, just in some moments and maybe beyond awareness a little bit. But then there's this horrible thing that kept happening day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year for 5 years. And that's caused this chronic disruption of navigation all day, every day. So there's a spectrum of the intensity, severity, duration, frequency of the original experience that didn't get processed and the way it's being activated in navigational patterns and affecting life now, okay? But let's say there's some regions of the trillions of navigational network patterns, okay? Navigational networks carrying these navigational patterns in the body mind. And some of them don't have the best content, or they don't have connection with everything else in the best way. They maybe have no connections at all, or very unique connections that aren't exchanging information effectively, or there's too many connections and there's just this chaos going on. There's different stuff that can happen. There's undercoupling, overcoupling, and unique order of wiring. There's all these different things that can happen where the connections aren't being made right, even if there is okay content, okay? So the content and or connectivity in the navigational patterns throughout trillions of networks might not have the best intel, potentially because there was some experience where the patterns of feeling and movement never got fully processed in the body-mind. They got interrupted and they didn't get fully slurped down. They didn't get fully slurped down. Okay, and so now there's this disintegrated data. Let's say the regulatory protocols are like top notch. They're pretty good. They're rolling pretty good. You digest food pretty good. You sleep pretty good. You got pretty good feels most of the time, right? Mostly good. But then there's this activation of disintegrated navigational patterns beyond awareness, and suddenly the navigation is disrupted. And you have a thought that you really don't like to think, and it feels really not good. Or you have a feeling that feels really not good, but it's being like projected into your experience through your body-mind, right? This data became activated, and now all of a sudden, or maybe not all of a sudden, just depending, but it could be all of a sudden, there's these feelings or these thoughts or these habits or these action patterns are like, oh my God, I have this impulse and this urge and I can't not do this thing. Those are navigational projections from the body-mind. And so when that comes up, there is a greater chance that the regulation will be disrupted. So even if this was all peachy keen before, there's this activation of disintegrated navigational patterns, potentially from unprocessed past experiences, feelings or movements, emotional sensations, or bodily responses that didn't get processed from some past experience. Doesn't even matter what the past experience is. It just matters that there's present navigational patterns that are navigating life the way that they're meant to. And so then this stuff comes in, and then boom, the regulatory protocols are like, ah! Ah! Chaos! They get disrupted. Okay, they get disrupted. The regulatory protocols get disrupted. And so navigation, regulation, correlation method explores the correlation between navigation and regulation in the body-mind that's happening beyond awareness. And so if this happens, everything was fine, but then all of a sudden this disintegrated data got activated, maybe because of some form of stimulus that came in, and suddenly there's this disruption of thoughts, feelings, and action patterns. There's these projections of thoughts, there's these projections of feelings, there's these projections of impulses or urges. And then all of a sudden, the regulation gets a little off balance, and the hormones and neurotransmitters aren't in their regular flows, and the brain waves are maybe getting spiked, and they're too fast, they're too high, and maybe the information traveling between the brain hemispheres reaches this part in the corpus callosum, and they're like, ah! I can't reach the other side. I got this information over here and this information here, and I can't get it all the way across. And then the brain hemispheres aren't as balanced as they were, 5 minutes ago or whatever. And there's a difference between the integration of brain hemispheres and present moment balance. They usually go hand in hand, but there's also different levels of them. You can be at a certain point of integration, where maybe there's a lot that isn't integrated, but you can manually balance the activity in the brain to the best of the ability with what's there to support it. And likewise, you could have a completely integrated brain hemispheres, but if there's some experience that, throws it off and causes a spike in emotions or something, for example, then there could be this temporary imbalance. So there's the integration of brain hemispheres and there's the balance of the brain hemispheres. And the integration has to do with the structures that exist. The balance have to do with how the energy is flowing through those structures, okay? So if there's this activation of disintegrated data, then it can disrupt the regulatory protocols. And then you might not, your circadian rhythm might be disrupted, your heart rate variability might be disrupted, your respiration or digestion might be disrupted. And then everything can feel a little off because the navigation, interpreting reality and creating projections through inner realities, and the regulation through the actual brain and body that are supporting the physical existence of consciousness in human form, are both not supporting the essence of self to their maximum capacity, okay? And the opposite can happen. Navigation is going all good, but then something disrupts the regulation. And we won't explore causes of that. That's another thing. My work focuses more on the navigation, but then its interrelationship with the regulation. And so something disrupts some aspect of the regulation, and then the brain and the body are like, oh, there's this something in the energy flows that isn't flowing right. And then there's this navigation, like, oh my goodness, there's something not going right over there. I'm supposed to navigate life. Maybe there's something not going right over here too. And then there's actually a greater chance that disintegrated data will be activated. And so, for example, if someone has a bunch of data that's really disintegrated, but a bunch of data that's really integrated, they're up here, they're navigating life through this integrated data and everything's going well. But then something actually causes their brain waves to be really imbalanced. And so then the brain waves are really imbalanced. They're always too high or too low. Then that navigation might shift to be, oh my goodness, I'm only in the disintegrated data. So navigation, regulation, correlation method. How can this be used in everyday realities? The biggest example is to understand the underlying causality of any type of implicit health disruption. If there's an implicit health challenge, which can manifest in the mind or mental states, mental experiences, manifest in the emotions, emotional tendencies, emotional feelings, emotional responses. It can manifest in behavioral aspects of the projected personality through navigation of the body-mind, such as habits, action patterns, approach avoidance tendencies, where and how the body moves and why, what the body-mind is up to when it's moving. And so it can manifest in the mental, emotional, or behavioral states, or the patterns of thinking, feeling, and moving in the body-mind. And every type of implicit health challenge can be traced back to a disruption of navigation and or regulation. But pinpointing the underlying causality really, really matters. It's interesting to explore the differences in a disruption of emotional experiences when related with unprocessed, unconscious memories versus when related with severe imbalances in the regulatory protocols, such as hormones and brain hemispheres. If the brain activity is primarily coming from the right brain hemisphere, then everything is being felt through these intense emotional states. And if there's a disruption in the hormones and neurotransmitters that kind of give the brain and the body the capacity to experience emotions in the first place, then all of that's going to be really amplified. And that experience will actually be very different than if it stems from unprocessed, unconscious memories. And being able to pinpoint where the implicit health challenge comes from and why allows us to create effective modalities to transmute the experiences for greater emotional well-being. If we need to bring balance to brain hemispheres and greater regulatory support for these hormones and neurotransmitters, that might look very different from creating a pathway to transmute unprocessed emotions from past experiences stored in memories unconsciously beyond awareness. But the surface experience might appear very similar at first glance because it's a disruption of the emotional health in some capacity. Maybe it's feeling a lot of unpleasant emotions all the time to an intense degree, for example. But we won't actually know the best way to move forward to bring greater implicit health until we understand what's actually causing it. And it's important to note that we don't always need to look at past experiences that might have, for example, created those unprocessed emotions that are being projected through navigation beyond awareness. Instead, we're actually looking at the patterns of navigation right here, right now. And that alone also creates more opportunities for deeper, truer healing and reunification with self aspects and a tangible and somatic experience of loving liberation. So it's important to identify where the disruption of implicit health is coming from. Is it coming from navigation or regulation? Is it coming from only one of them? Is it coming from both of them, but more so navigation, and then the regulation is subsequently disrupted? Is it coming primarily from regulation, and then the navigation is secondarily disrupted? Or is it coming from both of them equally? Okay? And there's so many different examples where this can be explored. Mood disorders, for example, might have, it really depends, but just as a generalized example for discussion's sake, mood disorders might be more so from regulation, whereas traumatic stress disorders might be more so from navigation. Both of them are disrupted in both of these circumstances, but if we can actually come to the underlying causality, then we have more opportunity to compassionately validate the experiences and actually create an effective pathway to move forward and create permanent healing resolution for these ongoing challenges. Major depression, for example, does that come from imbalances in regulation, or does it come from a disruption of navigation? One is coming from unconscious memories translating reality. One is coming from the regulatory systems and brain-body structures. And so they're very different, but they can manifest in very similar ways. If you're feeling depression, is it coming from here? Is it coming from here? Is it coming from both of them, but primarily here, both of them primarily here, or both of them equally? Okay? So there's 5 different potential options. And so the first, biggest, and most obvious way that the navigation, regulation, correlation method can be utilized to understand, explore, and unveil the hidden workings of the body-mind to positively impact everyday experiences is by using it to understand any disruption of implicit health. If there's any pattern of thinking, perceiving, any stories or narration or dialogue, internal projections in the mind, if there's any patterns of feeling, emotions, emotional blockages, emotional overwhelm, projections of unpleasant emotions, limitations in feeling positive emotions, sensations, somatic sensations, feelings in the gut sensations, muscle sensations, sensations on the skin, sensations, feelings, emotions, habits, action patterns, responses, how the body is moving to navigate everyday life, the way you approach things, the way you avoid things, behaviors, habits, impulses, urges, okay? Mental, emotional, and behavioral, or thinking, feeling, and moving, okay? If any of these are experiencing a disruption where they're not like, yay, the navigation's perfect, feelings are perfect, thoughts are perfect, behaviors are perfect, and just like so implicitly healthy, if there's any type of disruption in any of those aspects, and there's an intention or a desire to evolve beyond that and say, you know, this has kind of been the pattern for a while, I think I'd like to experience life free from this pattern and free to experience new patterns, better patterns of thinking, better patterns of feeling, better patterns of moving. Implicit health to a greater degree in my mental, emotional, and behavioral states. Then we can use the navigation, regulation, correlation method to pinpoint where the implicit health disruption is coming from. And with that renewed understanding, we have this greater capacity to validate the experiences, understand them, be there for parts of the self who have been within the struggle of them, and then to move forward and resculpt the patterns and shapeshift the navigation and or regulation and resolve that implicit health challenge while creating a greater foundation for implicit health moving forward and allowing the self to expand into who the self truly is beyond those struggles, liberating identity from experience while evolving all of it. Even without an implicit health challenge to kind of understand and crack the code of, the navigation, regulation, correlation method can be used to understand aspects of implicit health in everyday life, no matter how the health is doing. If you're doing really well with the health, or if there are some struggles, no matter what, it can actually just bring an expanded awareness to everyday experiences. And if you notice a certain style of navigation happening, you'll notice that there's also a certain style of regulation happening. And if you notice a certain style of regulation happening, you might notice a shift in the navigation that's happening. For example, if you go from a state of being like super totally relaxed to like doing like an ice bath or a cold swim or like really intensive exercise, something where you're moving that energy up, then the instinctive style of navigation and the way the thoughts and the feelings are moving might shift because you've shifted activities that change the regulatory states. The body's like, okay, we're doing something different. Let me move my energies to support this. And then you might actually find that you're in a different style of navigation. Similarly, if you shift the state of internal activity, such as kind of doing nothing and chilling, to being very mentally engaged in a focused project, for example, then you might notice a shift in the regulatory states, okay? And this can happen with all kinds of different day-to-day activities, types of experiences, movements in the day, you know, how you start your day, how you end your day, you know, how you go about eating, for example. Are you sitting and you're just like very relaxed and you have as much time as you need to eat and you're just blissed out? Are you like, okay, I'm going and I'm doing stuff and I'm just gonna like grab a bite in between all the things I'm doing? There's going to be a different style of navigation and regulation that are affecting the interpretations of reality and the capacity for the brain and the body to support consciousness in those moments. And so this can actually just be used in everyday life just to expand awareness of your own inner body-mind activity. And in this process, have more potential to be there for parts of yourself. The navigation, regulation, correlation method can also be used to explore identifying individuated navigational systems using another technique I've developed through my Implicit Revelations case study. When there are moments of unfulfilled attachment needs, the body-mind learns to navigate life through alternate regions of information. You can find out more about this topic in my free full-feature class exploring body-mind islands. When body-mind islands develop, then there's regions of navigation that are existing and operating independently of each other. And every time that data is activated to navigate life, then those new experiences are also stored in those independent navigational centers. And there are parts of consciousness or aspects of self-essence who are within the experience of those navigational centers. And so the body-mind islands house people who represent parts of self, basically. And so there's these islands and there's the people on the islands, just like there's independent regions of body-mind data and the aspects of consciousness experiencing life through that information. We can use the navigation, regulation, correlation method to actually help identify potential individuated navigational systems. And this can be really helpful because independent navigational systems affect so many different aspects of life. And they can happen to anyone, and they usually occur beyond awareness where you have no idea what's going on. In really obvious manifestations, they might appear in personality or dissociative disorders or complex structural dissociation, for example. Borderline personality disorder is a classic example of individuated navigational systems. And in the most intensive form, it can manifest as dissociative identity disorder, or what I refer to as adaptable consciousness condition, where the essence of self has learn to adapt through individuated navigational systems that each carry their own systems of navigation and regulation, where there's multiple body minds existing in one brain-body system. Multiple states of consciousness existing through one essence of self projected through individuated navigational structures of the body-mind. And so when there are independent navigational systems, it can create some unique experiences. And it might manifest in subtle forms through what you might call your personality. And maybe you feel like one person in these scenarios and you kind of feel like a different version of yourself over here, but you can't necessarily like reconcile these two sides to yourself. And you can't really be in these scenarios when you're in that state, and you can't really function over here when you're in this state. And sometimes it can cause a little disruption or a disconnect between parts of yourself, or a disconnect between the navigation of experiences. Or it could be really intense and actually have really severe implicit health challenges. There might be 25 different body-mind islands, and each of them has their own implicit health challenge. The navigation over here encounters obsessive compulsions. The navigational island over here encounters chronic insomnia. The navigational patterns over here have really intensive outbursts of rage. The navigational patterns over here have really intensive eating disorders. The navigational patterns over here have really intensive patterns of dermatillomania or trichotillomania. And so there could be like 20 different body-mind islands that each actually have their own disruption of navigation and regulation in their own way. And you can't actually heal all of them because they're coming from totally different regions of the body-mind. And if you're in this region of navigational patterns, you can't resolve the challenge going over there because you're not within the data that causes it. So anything you do over here isn't going to affect that information. Okay? And so when there are individuated navigational systems in the body-mind, it's important to be able to identify them and to know how to respond to them. Because you don't want to be like, oh my God, there's 20 body-mind islands and each of them have their own challenges. Clearly nothing can be done and this is impossible and you're stuck that way your whole life. Like, no! Absolutely not. That is not the case at all. We can always rewire the body-mind islands. We can always reconstruct patterns of implicit health. We can always reunify parts of the self. And the beautiful part is that you don't change any aspect of you. You're changing the structures of navigation and regulation in the body-mind so that you can be more of who you really are, not limited or restricted or reduced by the disruption of implicit health. And so when there are independent body-mind regions of navigation and regulation, it's important to be able to identify them. And once you identify them, there's more opportunity to create a loving liberation pathway. And maybe the body-mind islands don't be completely like unified in one structure. That's fine. That's not the goal. The goal is to improve content and expand connectivity to improve navigation and regulation. That's the only goal. How the body-mind islands end up shape-shifting is actually none of our business. How the body-mind islands end up shape-shifting is actually none of our business. We are just interested in improving the content and connectivity in navigational patterns that also affect regulatory protocols. And in this process, we improve the navigation and regulation while having a greater connection with parts of self. That's it. How the body-mind islands naturally shape-shift in that process is not the focus. And so in this process, it's important to identify them, and the navigation regulation correlation method helps us identify individuated body-mind islands. And that's a whole other process I won't go into now, but that's another application of this technique. And once we start to explore the navigation and we explore the regulation and we see their interrelated connectedness, we have so much more opportunity to go through the identifying individuated navigational systems technique, which is another technique and modality I've developed through my implicit revelations case study. And so it's just amazing. And yeah. Now we can explore the fulfillment of the second purpose of my quantum catalyzers through the navigation regulation correlation method, The first purpose was to explore, understand, and unveil the hidden activity in body-mind structures, unveiling, exploring, and understanding the trillions of networks in the navigational structures of the body-mind, carrying unconscious memories, including patterns of feeling and movement, and the regulatory protocols. So now we understand them. We have a tool to understand them and explore them a little bit more. The second purpose of quantum catalyzers is to evolve those structures, to transform them, to resculpt them, to recreate them, to liberate and expand how the self flows through them. And so the navigation, regulation, correlation method can be used in a lot of different ways to create new modalities that allow us to intentionally and consciously shapeshift the structures that exist and or shift the way they're being activated in everyday moments. And you can go at this from either side. You can go at it through the navigational patterns. If you focus on sculpting new navigational patterns, then it will also affect the regulatory protocols. And if you focus on understanding and shifting the regulatory protocols, it will naturally improve the integrative connectivity of the content in the navigational patterns. And one of the many tools that I've created to actually apply this and use it in everyday life is the spectrum to assess nervous system regulation. This concept stems from the polyvagal theory, but takes it a step further. And the foundation of these ideas actually originally developed through an earlier expression of the Implicit Revelations case study called the spectrum of dissociative states of consciousness, which is one of the many features of my Implicit Revelations gift package, one of the many creations that I share through my online business. You can explore that if these topics interest you. But this concept that's now used in the spectrum of nervous system regulation that allows us to expand the navigation, regulation, correlation method in application came from the spectrum of dissociative states of consciousness, noticing that these different states, when experiencing traumatic stress and dissociation through adaptable consciousness condition years ago, held different patterns of navigation, styles of thoughts and feelings and personality traits and interpretations of reality and responses and perceptions, etc., and different styles of regulation, different brain-body activity, different experiences of brain hemispheric connectivity, different experiences of heart rate variability, different experiences in the cranial nerves, different experiences in all these regulatory protocols. And they directly went along this spectrum of different states. And so that was used to understand experiences when the brain and the body were wired completely differently, been totally shapeshifted through all the work that I share here. Everything that I share through my services and content creations are the exact modalities I use to completely re-sculpt my entire brain-body structures from the ground up on my own without any external guidance or assistance. And I love these modalities because they are so effective and so enjoyable. Anybody can use them, and they create true transformation in a way that feels good while you're in the process of it. Originally, there was the spectrum of dissociative states, and then there was further exploration about how there is this spectrum of regulatory activity, and this correlates with the polyvagal theory, and then how that actually correlates with styles of navigation. And so through my work, especially in the 6 months towards implicit resolution, one of my offerings through Sacred Soul Sessions, a multi-month personalized pathway for those intending to create permanent resolution for an implicit health challenge, we go through a process of understanding the implicit health challenge, transforming the implicit health challenge, and creating a brand new foundation for better implicit health moving forward while connecting deeper with the self through a 6-month journey with weekly calls and sessions, one-on-one personalized journeys with me. And so this is one of the many tools that I teach and share, and there's a playbook to support its application as well. Having something visual you can reference really helps. But there is a spectrum to assess autonomic nervous system regulation, which also provides insights into dozens of other regulatory systems in the brain and the body. And then from that awareness, we also connect each of those different states with styles of navigation. And in this process, we can use it to optimize navigation regulation potentials. For example, if there's this spectrum of nervous system activity, there might be a certain state within that spectrum where you accomplish a certain task or activity much more effectively. In a higher energy state, you might be able to do a really amazing workout and exercise and feel good in the process. Whereas if you're in a lower energy state, trying to push yourself into that experience is just going to feel like work because you're working against the natural energy flows of the brain and the body. Similarly, if you're trying to sit and focus on maybe like reading something or editing something you're writing or some kind of focus concentration in that capacity, but you're in a high energy state and you're just like, I can't focus, I have too much energy, okay? Versus if you're in a low energy state where it fully supports that activity, you can have these insights so that you can shift the activity that you're doing, or you can shift the natural flow of regulation through a certain practice and technique so that then you are in the regulatory state that supports the activity you want to do. And so, for example, if you're in a high energy state and you're like, I really should, go read or do this thing, but I'm going to work with where my system's at and I'm going to go exercise for a while. And then maybe I'll be so worn out that I'll have more energy to focus on something like that later, afterwards. Or you're in that high energy state and you're like, I really want to go read that book. Let me do this activity to shift my energy down so that I can focus on this activity. And in this process, you're shifting the navigational potentials by shifting the regulatory activity. Your brain and your body mind, is then able to navigate editing or reading or writing, is able to navigate this high energy exercise because the navigation is fully working with the regulation. And so through the implicit resolution journey with me, or we can explore just a nugget of this in some other form of a Sacred Soul session, but we really dive in deep during the 6 months journey, and it's used along the entire 6 months, and we really grow and build on the concepts throughout the journey, is to create this spectrum of nervous system regulation. And there's 15 different points along it, exploring different energy levels throughout 5 different states of autonomic regulation that builds on concepts from the polyvagal theory. And we create it so that we're able to identify when you're in that regulatory state. We're able to explore how that spectrum that is specifically focused on autonomic regulation is also affecting other styles of brain-body regulation through dozens of systems. And we're able to connect each of those different states with preferred or more improved styles of navigation. Which state is best to navigate this activity? Which state is best at navigating these emotions? Which state is best at navigating these thought patterns? If you're talking about complex ideas versus in a deep state of feeling certain emotions, if you're in this high energy state of movement and you got energy and you can, go clean the house versus you're cuddled on a couch and you just don't want to move a muscle, what types of navigation are best supported in each of these states? So how do you recognize the state? How does it affect other regulation? And what navigational potentials are best in each of those states? Because then you're like, okay, this regulatory state can actually improve the navigation of this other activity that the brain and the body don't fully support over here, and vice versa. And this is such a powerful and profound journey of just introspective awareness. This is a lifelong tool. This is a tool that you take with you for the rest of your life. This is a tool you continue to grow and build on in awareness. This is a tool that affects every moment of every day. And when you have this introspective awareness and insight and understanding into these inner realities, you have so much more power. Because then you can understand what's happening in your internal systems beyond awareness, and you know how to respond to it. You know how to work with those systems instead of working against them. Like maybe you're in that lower energy state and you're like, I need to push myself to go do this exercise. You're totally working against the navigation, regulation structures of the body mind and trying to force it to do a job that a different part of the system is meant to do, but you haven't shifted to that part of the system that can support you doing that. And then parts of the self are flowing through those structures beyond awareness, and they're not having a good time because they're kind of pushed into this box where the navigation regulation isn't working with the experience you're trying to have. And similarly, like if you want to be in that lower energy state and you're like, I just want to relax and sit here and be content, just being and just be in the moment and just have that be enough. If you're in this higher energy state, you're going to sit there and going to be like, oh my God, I'm bored. I need something to do. Oh my God, I can't just sit here. I'm going to lose my mind. And so you can work with these systems and have this greater understanding of what's happening, how what's happening is affecting everything else that's happening, and then how to work with those structures to have these better experiences of what you're trying to actually do. And so in this process, we explore how to identify states of regulation, referencing the spectrum of nervous system regulation, which explores the autonomic nervous system through the polyvagal theory. And there's 5 systems, but there's 15 different points along them because there's 3 points of energy, intensity, high, low in each of those systems. So we learn how to identify each of them and create a personalized spectrum because everyone is different. And the way I might notice my nervous system right here might not be the exact clues that allow you to notice this state of nervous system activity for you in your everyday life. So it's a personalized spectrum, which is why it's a journey to create it. It's a journey to create the personalized spectrum from the modalities that I create and I teach and I serve as a guide through. And then you have a created personalized version of it for your own personal body, mind, and experiences of consciousness. And so we identify the different states of nervous system activity, discover clues to identify them. We explore the correlation and relationship between the autonomic regulation and all the regulation of other systems, including the voice, cranial nerves, brain hemispheres, digestion, respiration, all the stuff we mentioned earlier about regulatory protocols, how it's affecting all of that. And, some of those might be more relevant for your personal journey than others. And then we explore, okay, what types of navigation are best supported in each of these states so that I can have a greater understanding of how to work with the systems and not against them. And with that, there's other, potentials, like if I'm over here and I'm over here, what can I do to shift? And again, this is a personalized journey, and so there's no black and white answer to that. There might be different techniques or practices that allow you to shift to other states or to work with the place that you naturally are in the system so it can naturally go to this other part of the state, with the example of the exercise. Like if you're trying to read and focus, but you have too much energy, instead of forcing it to be in that state, go use the high energy state you're in for exercising or cleaning or something, and then come back to this when you're a little more worn out and the system has naturally gone to a lower energy state. Okay. And so there's ways of working with the system, ways of manually adjusting the energy in the system, and ways of resculpting the natural patterns in the system. Okay. So there's another 3 things there. Okay. Working with the system as it naturally is, manually shifting the present moment activity in the system, and resculpting the patterns at the foundation of the systems. And those are 3 tools, again, that have lifelong benefits. This is an awareness and a practice that you can take with you for the rest of your life. You will always be experiencing life through the navigation and regulation of the body mind. You will always be experiencing life through these different states of nervous system activity. You'll always be experiencing all these different everyday activities, or activities that are unique and happen once upon a time, every so often, not daily. And you'll be able to work with the systems of navigation and regulation to maximize your experience, to maximize your performance in activities, to maximize the enjoyability and pleasure and rewarding sensations of experiences. You maximize the fullness of experience by working with these systems of navigation and regulation. If you'd like to dive deeper into my work, I have a variety of free libraries and free gifts, amazing playlists, video channel, different pages, playbooks, downloads, so much magic, lots of free goodies. And if you want to actually dive deeper and really get more benefit from the modalities I've developed, you can explore all of my different offerings. I have a variety of self-guided journeys, which utilize a lot of these concepts directly or indirectly. For example, implicit transformation uses this indirectly, and it allows you to shapeshift regulation in phase 1 and shapeshift navigation in phase 2, and then they're constantly improving each other, for example. And self-love liberation allows you to focus on shapeshifting, understanding, and evolving navigation, which will also have a positive effect on regulation. So you can explore my self-guided journeys through content creations, playbooks, guidebooks, reference guidebooks, and videos, or you can explore offerings through my one-on-one Sacred Soul sessions. The one where we explore this in the greatest depth is through Implicit Resolution. And this is for anyone with an intention to resolve an implicit health challenge. And this doesn't have to be like a big mental health diagnosis. It can be, and we absolutely can work with that. But it can also be for anyone with just any type of implicit health pattern you'd like to shapeshift. And it might not be this big, major disabling disruption with like an official term in that like realm of whatever, but it might just be this pattern of thought. You're like, I just want a different pattern of thought. I just want greater power in the navigation of my body mind. I just want to have more awareness of regulation in my brain body systems. I want to have a greater understanding and more power and practices to have authority and the opportunity to shapeshift this if I want to. And so we work with all of it. Okay, it's for anyone and everyone with this kind of intention. If there's any type of implicit health experience you would like to understand and evolve, you want to get to the bottom of what's actually going on deeper beyond awareness and have a greater awareness and some tools or practices or techniques to shapeshift that and change those experiences to evolve into more of your truest self, the Implicit Resolution 6-month personalized pathway could be just the miracle you're looking for. If you're interested, you can explore more in my free introductory playbook, and you can just browse through and read the parts that are relevant to your curiosity. You don't have to read the whole thing. You can just scroll to the bottom of the playbook and look at the actual offering, the value included, and the way to embrace this opportunity. And I am accepting clients at this time. So you can explore more about my 6 months towards implicit resolution offering, and we dive into the navigation, regulation, correlation method. If applicable, we explore the identifying individuated navigational systems technique. We create the personalized spectrum of nervous system regulation so that you have all the tools and concepts and awareness and insight to recognize your state of activity in any given moment, to understand the relationship between something like autonomic nervous system activity and the regulation of other brain body systems, so you know more about all the regulatory structures just through this one internal assessment. And you have a greater capacity to understand which states of nervous system activity fully support different styles of navigating other experiences in your life so that you can work with the natural flows of the body mind and not against it. And from this expanded awareness, you then have the opportunity to work with the present state of regulation that supports a certain modality of navigation, or you can manually shift the energy, and or you can resculpt the patterns that are creating the continuous flows of regulation. So you can work with the present structures, manually shift present flows of energy, and or resculpt the foundational regulatory protocols. And those three things are possible from the spectrum where you're able to identify different states of activity, understand the relationship between nervous systems and other states of activity. You can learn more about other regulatory protocols and all the different brain-body systems through this internal assessment guide, and understand which states of nervous system activity most profoundly support various styles of experience. With the examples here of, you want to mentally focus on reading or writing or editing, some mentally focused activity where the body's like still and chill, versus physical exercise. You're not using your mind to think about a lot of stuff other than mind-body connection, and you're moving the body in this higher energy state. And so you can maximize the quality of personal experience with this understanding of navigation, regulation, correlation. And so from resolving a chronic implicit health challenge to just having improved awareness to further expand the potentials of how your body mind can support your essence, these concepts can create some profound shifts in everyday realities. You can explore more about all my different offerings in the video description below. And while you're here, you can explore more of my videos. Thanks so much for checking it out. I'm so grateful to share this, and I look forward to connecting with you in another video. I'd love to hear from you guys. Please feel free to leave a comment and let me know one thing that you learned today that you did not already know, and one aspect of your experience where you can explore the correlation between navigation and regulation in your own body mind. I look forward to hearing from you. And stay tuned for more amazing content creations as we explore quantum catalyzers.